we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all persons are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among us, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now, that's probably as close to an American creed as exists. Thomas Jefferson, Declaration of Independence, fast forward 200 years. When I tell stories, this one is before cell phones. There actually was a civilization before cell phones. But come forward 200 years, we're trying a short case. It's not much of a case. It'll go about 4 days. True story. And a lady on the jury is coming into the center city where the courthouse is, and her gas pump goes, and her car drifts into the breakdown lane and stops. And it's Massachusetts, you know, and it's a social safety net. No one stops. Everyone goes by, very crowded. But she's not there on time. And I'm biting my nails, and eventually the social safety net does kick in, and there's a state trooper on traffic patrol. He's got little yellow lights on the top of his car, and he sees his broken car, and he pulls over into the breakdown lane, positioning his cruiser. And before he can get out, she's out of her car, walking back to the trooper's sedan, and she says, "I'm a juror in federal court. Take me to the courthouse." The lady's a heroine. This is what we want. And it must have been a slow day for the trooper. He does. He gets her into that squad car. He puts on the blue lights, and he starts coming up the Southeast Expressway. And what's more, he's got a radio. So he radios our marshal's office, and they get the word that this lady is coming in. I am beside myself. It's wonderful. This is how we want the people inspired. So we're in the old courthouse, and she has to come up a number of floors, and it's very slow elevators. But I just think this lady is fabulous, and we've only lost about 20 minutes. And she gets up to our floor, and she's running down to the jury room. Now, when you've got jurors, we're not supposed to talk to them directly, but she has to go past my little office. But my clerk is there, and she's coming, and the clerk is saying, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." And she goes, I tried to get here. Car's broken. I just need to make one call so they'll tow my car. Now I have something to do because I have a phone in my little office. And so without talking to her, the robe is open, I'm standing there, and I just sort of gesture as she come in. And you know what happens? They won't tow her car. She's not there. She's at court. They're worried about liability. I go crazy. I say, "Give me that phone." "Do you know who this is? Chief Judge of the court. I have an order to show cause. Get out there, tow that lady's car, or you'll report." You know, and I want to tell you, I hope there is a statute of limitations on judicial ethics, because that breaks about 7 different codes. We're not supposed to do that, all right? So here's the ideal, these electrifying ideas that inspire this lady in the reality of our society today. And what I want to do, and I'm so proud to follow Dean Chemerinsky, but I'm going to do something different. As skilled as he is at teaching you about how to teach about the Constitution, I want to take not a long time to talk with you about your participation as educators in our constitutional processes. There are at least 2 basic values that each one of you bring to the health of our constitutional democratic society that are found only in our body of educators. I'm the son of a teacher. I'm the father of another. I stand in awe of what you people do. You are, and I was privileged to come in the midst of the lecture before Dean Chemerinsky, and the quality of discussion is profound. You people are the keepers of the flame. All those values that inform my daily existence, the duties that I am sworn to express, all those values, everything that I have devoted my life to, been privileged to devote my life to, you're the keeper of that flame, but it's not my flame. It's not the nostalgic views of how society ought be from a fellow. I've been a judge for 39 years. I've been a judge longer than most of you have been alive. You have the obligation to teach those values today to today's young people with the demographics of today and the challenges of today, the challenges that we haven't faced before. And that's true of every generation. So I stand in awe of you. And I ask you to bear with me as I try to draw out just two. There are many others, but just two ways that your contribution is the very life's blood of our constitutional system. And I'll illustrate the first way with a story. I'm a storyteller. And it's this. It's a story I heard from a law clerk. And it's the story, he wasn't a law clerk to me, but a law clerk to another judge. And the story was about how the judge's grandmother spent the winter of 75, 76. That's 1775, 76. She was a teenage girl in Boston. The British held the city. The rebels, that's us, we held the surrounding countryside. We'd let milk into the city for nursing mothers and other people, but you know, we wouldn't let wood in because everything was heated by wood. And the winter of 75, 76 was a harsh winter. So first the British garrison burned up all the wood piles. And once the wood piles were gone, the fences went. And there were trees on Boston Common, but they chopped those down. And once all the available wood was gone, the houses of the poor began to be demolished because, of course, you had to keep the troops fit and healthy. And this teenage girl grew up, married, had a family, had a distinguished son. He was a poet, and had a distinguished grandson named Wendell. They called him Wendell. Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr., Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. Lived to 94. He saw FDR sworn in. He had his last two law clerks were Chappie Rose and Jim Rowe. I knew Jim Rowe. Jim Rowe told me that story. Now think about that. That's 4 heartbeats, 5 when you count your own. And that's the whole history of this enterprise. This is all an experiment. This is all an amazing attempt to order how people might live together in the full expression of liberties that we wish to guarantee to them, but that we need to pull our people together. Now, I use that story, talking to various groups, because I am desperate to convey to them that nothing is certain here. Dean Chemerinsky did so well about how the compromises were made and how you might teach about the compromises. All things are in flux, in balance. And the fascinating thing to me is, you know it. You have the young people for whom this is all new. All new. For years and years, I was a scout counselor on the citizenship merit badges, and I'm not going to get any more complex than what I talked to these scouts about. You teach them. I've been privileged, as Chuck said, I've been privileged to teach at law schools, and now I'm going to tell you something. You don't need to acknowledge this if this is true. And you'll know it. One of the great things about teaching is you can tell the same stories year after year because, of course, thank you, because, of course, the kids are different. All right? Look, it is in their innocence, in their willingness to learn, and most of them are, that the great challenge comes. Your questions are so great. How are you going to teach these difficult, controversial cases? And the dean gave a brilliant answer. I am not, I know it would be presumptuous, and I'm not even going to go there. But do you know, think about it. The students you teach, when you are moderating in the skillful ways that you know how to do it, I've talked to my son about this, the ways that the techniques that you have in a nonpartisan way, in an open way, in an attempt to let everyone speak in circumstances where they can listen to the other views being expressed and express their own views. Are there any echoes there? That's what I try to teach jurors. I say a few words about how they are to deliberate together, and those are my instructions to the jury. Deliberate so you can listen to the views of everyone else and express your own. You know, and I'm here to acknowledge it, and I'm here to thank you. This may be the last time those students have that chance. For many of them, your class is the last exposure to a truly open, truly balanced discussion of those matters that you are sharing with them. Not all of them are going to be taught by Dean Chemerinsky. Some of them are going to get it all from talk radio or social media. You know, it's true. If not you, who? So that's the first thing. You have the excitement of this adventure, which is our system of living together. Because the students come in, and as you deal with it, it's fresh to them. And that freshness and your attempt to make sense out of it, your attempt, not something I teach, your attempt is, on the one hand, magnificent, incredibly challenging, and utterly essential to the health of the nation. We are heirs to a magnificent tradition. It has been given to us, these ideas. Reagan got the right of it. Freedom, he said, is a fragile thing, never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for and defended in every generation, for it comes but once to a people. So that's one thing. Now, the second thing, and I want to develop this at a slightly greater length because I do want to talk about our jury system, is the concept of a free public education. Obviously, it's not free, but an accessible public education for all our children. Some of you teach in private schools, and that's fine. And they play in their innovative, in their freedom to adjust curriculum. They nurture the public schools in vital ways. But all of you are educators, and not surprisingly, my son's a good example, you may have moved from private schools to public schools or the other way. You're educators. You're the only group in society, the only group in society that has the obligation of befitting all our young people, all of them, for the mantle of citizenship. There's nothing in our society that approaches that. Trying to be honest, Amazon and Google in their retail efforts do try to speak to the whole society, but most other retailers, they have niches, and that's what the whole marketing effort is about. When Truman desegregated the military in '48, the military was a magnificent engine of social interaction for our society. But it's a volunteer military now. Without a draft, without national service, it's a segment of society. You educators, you have the obligation to teach all our young people. And I'm concerned, as Dean Chemerinsky did it great, about teaching about the Constitution. I think you make an enormous contribution just getting our young people to be qualified citizens. I have no litmus test because like you, I have to deal with the entire range of our citizenry. Every one of them has a constitutional right to sit on the nation's juries. Everyone. There's no educational qualifications. There's what we call a fair cross-section requirement. There has to be a statistical, we can't do it exactly, but we strive for it, a statistical equality in your chances of serving on the nation's juries. So I get them after you've prepared them. So let me talk a little bit about that, because jurors are the life's blood of the judicial system. They are, in their fact-finding determinations, they are constitutional officers. And I want to make that point to you. you're bringing up constitutional officers. Let's think about that for a moment. How many of you come from towns where they have direct town meeting? I don't think they have it outside of New England, but when I ask that of jurors who come in, yes, sir, where are you from? From Connecticut. They have direct town meeting. All right. So direct town meeting, and you correct me if it's wrong, in direct town meeting, everyone who's a citizen of the town, lives in the town, everyone can go to town meeting. And what they do is they have a town warrant and everyone votes. They have to have a quorum, but if they have a quorum, everyone votes, and they vote whether to close the town dump, raise the teachers' salaries, buy another fire engine. That's direct democracy. That's the people ruling directly. Now, our country in two branches of government uses representative democracy more than any other country in the history of the world. Think about it. I don't live in such a town. I come from Massachusetts, but my town doesn't have direct town meeting. We have representative town meeting. And what that means is I can go to town meeting, and if I think there's some issue before the town and the moderator will call on me, I can express myself. I can say what I think we ought to do. But I can't vote. Because, you see, I've already voted. I voted in my precinct. I voted in my neighborhood for those people who are going to represent me at town meeting. That's representative democracy. We vote for town meeting members, Board of Selectmen, Board of Aldermen, City Council, mayor. We vote for the various state offices. We have a bicameral legislature in Massachusetts. Much of the federal Constitution, thanks to John Adams, came from Massachusetts. Thank you very much. All right, so we have a state senate and a House of Representatives. We have a governor's council, various constitutional officers. We elect them all. And of course, today is not today, this year is our great quadrennial electoral process. I hesitated to say this, but I'm going to. Testing whether our nation or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met at the very epicenter here in Philadelphia of the ideas that gave rise to this process. So we elect the entire House of Representatives, all of them, all of the seats. Yes, I know the power of incumbency, but all of those seats are open. 1/3 of the Senate. And as I say to jurors, to get the laugh, I say, and in case you missed it, we're in the process of electing the President of the United States. But then the point for jurors is, and for us all, we elect them, but they do the governing, not us. When I have a trial and I explain the law, which is really what the basic part of my job, I say to jurors, you have to follow the law the way I tell it to you. That's the only fair way. That's why we have trial judges, to explain the law to you. You can't make up your own law. And I say, look, if you want to make up your own law, run for Congress. That's not what we do here. You've got to follow the legal framework the way I teach it to you. That's representative democracy. But in the United States of America, we still have the most robust form of direct democracy known on this planet, the American jury. We send more different disputes to juries than any other country in the history of the world. 90% of the jury trials on the planet take place in the United States of America. The American jury system, we didn't originate it, but it has come to full flower in our polity. And it is of absolutely vital importance to the health of our nation. And as I am insisting to you, jurors are constitutional officers. Here's why. Now, you all know this. You especially know this, but it isn't going to hurt you to hear me tell it to you again to ensure that you know I know it. We have three branches of government. Article 1, the legislature makes the laws. I get this from Akhil Amar, professor of constitutional history at Yale. Each branch has two types of constitutional officers. It's very symmetrical. So in the Article 1, you have representatives and senators. They're constitutional officers. Their allegiance is only to the Constitution. They can take an oath, but then they can legislate. The executive, most people in the federal government work in the executive branch of government because our Constitution sets up an extremely strong chief executive. We meant it to be that way. President of the United States. And then, excuse me, given the frailties of the human condition, Vice President of the United States. Now, those are the two constitutional officers in the executive branch. Oh, yes, a cabinet is provided for, but all those boards, commissions, departments, generals, admirals, they all work directly or indirectly for the President of the United States. So now we come to the judiciary. Executive branch enforces the laws. Judicial branch applies the laws. So we come to the judicial branch of government. It has two. I know something about the judicial branch of government. I can recite for you at least the first sentence of Article 3. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and such inferior courts as Congress from time to time shall ordain and establish. One of those checks and balances. All right? And that's where I serve, in one of those inferior courts. And judges, not just Supreme Court justices, but all judges appointed by the President, confirmed by the Senate, are constitutional officers. I'm humbly proud to be one. And when I glibly said I didn't care whether a court of appeals reversed me, that was too glib. Naturally, I care, and naturally, I'm desperately concerned that I faithfully carry out what I'm sworn to do, which is to follow the instructions of the higher courts, but, you know, they don't make things clear. So I do the best I can. And that's all I meant. Once I've done the best I can, then it's out of my hands. We have higher courts to correct my mistakes. So I'm obligated to do the best I can, but there's no doubt, and I'm humble about this, but understand it. I am a constitutional officer of the United States. There are 677 United States district judges. Every single one of us is a constitutional officer. And then it's a paragraph, really, which tells about judges. And then, understand, you don't need the Bill of Rights for this. This is right in the organization of government, in how the three articles set up our government. The trial of all crimes shall be by, I misquoted it. The trial of all crimes save for impeachment shall be by jury. Get that. The trial of all crimes save for impeachment shall be by jury. Now, of course, the people wouldn't buy it. They wouldn't go for it until it had the 10th Amendment. And the 7th Amendment, not mentioned yet, and I'm glib here, but I'm accurate. The 7th Amendment, in essence, says this, and again, it's in that vague Constitution speak, and there's a lot of debate about its reach. I grant you that. Don't have time to go into it, but it is an amendment to the Constitution. It is the supreme law of the land. In essence, it says, these cases we're trying to juries now, we'll always try them to juries. as long as the Constitution stands. Jurors are the sixth type of constitutional officer. And so when in a trial, in this short trial, I did a long 6-week trial, antitrust case, not too long ago, when we're all done, and I've explained the law, and I send those people out, and they are going to determine the disputed issues of fact, the Constitution confers on them, not on me. I am not empowered to decide it. Yes, people can waive a jury and then a judge will decide. But if they want a jury, that's their constitutional right, then the jury will decide. They are my equals. In fact, that's their province alone. No one gets to decide the facts in the specific case. Not the senators and representatives who pass the laws, not the President of the United States. Those 12 men and women. And after each trial, I go back to them, and I thank them for their service. And one of the things I say in every case, I say, you want to know what justice is in the United States? Look around this table. That's what justice is in the United States. You 12 people, and the 12 who are going to be in here next Monday when I pick another jury. And that has been true for over 200 years. So I'm here to thank you. My hat's off to you. And I'm going to tell you a story, and it's a good time and place to end. I recognize, I read with sorrow that a survey has said that a significant number of our citizens think that Judge Judy is on the Supreme Court of the United States, and that at least half of our college students can't name you a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. But you know, there's something deeper than that. And it's not you alone. It's loving parents, it's every mosque and synagogue and church, every youth group and sports team. But it's you. It's you who fit these people, who make these people into the citizens of the United States. I've been at this for 39 years. I say without equivocation that Americans have a common sense decency that is unparalleled. And they have a sense of duty that is beyond belief. This talk about runaway juries and sympathetic this and the like, that's a flaw on the part of judges who don't make things clear. Jurors follow the law if it's properly explained to them. And how do I know? Last story. 3 years ago, we have a holiday in Massachusetts. We have various state holidays, little more than the feds. And one of our holidays is Patriots' Day. Now, Patriots' Day is April 19, but we make it a Monday holiday so people can get 3-day weekends. Now, that's a state holiday, not a federal holiday, so I'm supposed to go to work. But at least when we sit in Boston, we can't call jurors in that day, and that sort of slows the whole thing down. And why can't we call them in? Well, because that is the day they run the Boston Marathon, and that streets are all tied up, but I've gone to work. So 3 years ago, I'm in my chambers, and nothing's going on. I'm working on some opinion. I forget what it is, because it's Patriots' Day. So like you, I watched the videos of the bombings, and I watched when the second, it was true after the first, but when the second bomb went off, I watched people running into the smoke. Yes, cries and chaos and people running away, but I watched them run into the smoke, tearing down the barriers between the runners and the crowd to get to those who were bleeding out. And after the second bomb, it was perfectly clear this was no accident. Running into the smoke to staunch people who were bleeding to death. In Newtown, Connecticut, it took 5 minutes for that shooter to kill those kids and the teachers. Now, I've been in a lot of elementary schools. They got a lot of windows. They got a lot of doors. You've all got fire evacuation plans in your schools. Not one teacher ran out of that school. 5 minutes to shoot those people down. Those teachers put their bodies in front of the kids they came to teach. On 9/11, everybody who could get out of the World Trade Center got out. Hundreds of firefighters ran in. Now, we pick our juries on a Monday. That Monday, naturally, we didn't have juries, so we picked them on Tuesday. I'm the jury liaison, and I'm the one who goes down and says welcome and thank you for your service. And so I went down, and of course there they all were. Teachers, firefighters, ordinary Americans. No one is going to tell me that they are not fit to rule, that they are not fit to exercise the direct democracy that our Constitution bestows upon them. A great judge, one of the greatest, in my book, the finest judges in the United States in the 20th century, was Richard Arnold of Arkansas. And he said this. He was talking to lawyers and judges, but it applies to you people, and it applies in spades. There has to be a safe place, and we have to be it. And what he means, of course, is there has to be a place where all these words that have been used, all these rights that have been talked about, all these conceptions that we say we adhere to, where they are really expressed believably, understandably, faithfully, and in a balanced way. Now remember this is how I end up talking to jurors, but it'll work here. Every single jury trial in the United States is both a test and a celebration of a free people governing themselves. Go now, do justice. Oh. I messed the speech up. I was going to work this in. There's one thing. There's one more thing. And I have to run. I would love to. Right. No, I've got to run out of here. But I am desperate to be of help to you. Not that there's anything significant about me, and there isn't. I'm just one of the 677. But I'll give to Chuck. There isn't enough of these, but I gave to Tamara, and they're going to make copies for you. Here's all my calling cards. Now, it's got my email address. If there's anything, any sort of interaction that would be helpful, you people are the keepers of the flame. I'll answer your emails. But there's also our website, our court website. And on the court website, we were one of the pilot courts had cameras in the court. So not for you people, but for my law teaching, I grabbed a camera. And I had them film, really me, doing all the routine things judges do. And I've got a series, about 15 videos. They're not long, and there's nothing special about them. I call them a workaday judge at work. And I did it special. I picked the first time I was having a motion session after I got my hands on the camera. And so there are no special motions or anything. It's just an average judge doing what an average judge does. And the take-up among law schools has surprised me. Again, I mean, the teachers probably make fun of me and explain to the students how it really should be done. But I found that people are interested in it beyond law school. And so if that's of any help to you, go and just take a look at it to see, you're the teachers, see if you can make use of it. And if you can think of any other way, what ABOTA has done here, what the National Constitution Center has done, in my mind, is magnificent. I thank you all for coming. If I can do anything for you, please, please ask.